Hi, everybody. This is Tom and Grisak, and I'm here with our team leader at the Grisak Group, Sean Elliott. We're going to be giving you some interesting information today. And Jason, my son,
Hi.
thank you for running the board for us.
Yep, no problem.
All three of us are either recovering or maybe thinking about we are coming down with COVID. So nothing stops us. We're here and we're going to give you a nice quarterly update, the fourth quarter of last year, and then also talk about some other things we think you guys will have some interest in. So thank you guys for sitting in.
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, before we get into this, I want to let you know we have our inventory right now is about 28 million, and of that, about almost 15 million of it we haven't announced yet. And it's not because we don't want to, it's because there are certain rules and regs that the MLS gives us that we have to abide by before we can put that information out there. But if you are interested in if you follow us, you know the type of homes that we specialize in. I really encourage you guys to look at our website and follow us because we have some tremendous listings coming up. It's for this early in the year to have this much product, it's exciting for us. The first thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to let Sean handle this. Sean is not only, he wears a lot of hats. He's our team leader. He's also our top agent. And he's also our stats guy, which he really enjoys. And we rely on him to kind of keep us updated on what's happening with the market. And one of the things he does that you might have an interest in if you're thinking about buying or selling a home, there's been a huge amount of talk about buyer agent commissions in the past year. There was a major lawsuit that came down last year. So we have done some investigations, and we can't do the entire Metroplex, obviously. We have to keep this confined to like Fairview and Lucas, which is our Fairview, Lucas, and Parker. That's our wheelhouse. But Sean stays on top of what's happening out there. So Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit what you found about how much sellers are paying in commissions? Having said this, remember, all commissions are negotiable, but we reached out to all of the people that have homes for sale, all the agents, and we physically asked them, what are you paying in the way of buyer agent commissions? So go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And I apologize in advance if I cough and clear my throat about 50 times, but just trying to fight through whatever the heck is in my system right now. So yeah, to me, I mean, math and data, it's the universal language, right? I mean, you look at numbers and you follow trends and you can kind of figure out what's really going on in the market. So to me, following this data just helps us. It helps our clients. It just helps us figure out really what's going on out there. So as Tom said, commissions are negotiable, but it is part of marketing and selling a home. And so in general, when that buyer's coming to the closing table, all the money that they have is going towards their down payment or renovations or paying down their interest rate, buying furniture, things like that. So the system has really developed itself to where the seller pays the commissions and the buyer is essentially paying for that. It's just built into the price of the home. And then when whoever sold their home goes to buy their next home, they'll get the same thing. That seller will pay the commissions. That's the general structure. But again, it's all negotiable. So when the lawsuit came down last year, we used to be able to look in MLS and see very clearly what buyer's agent commission was being offered, and that was taken away. Now it's all negotiable. So for our primary area that we work, Fairview and Lucas, I've basically been keeping a spreadsheet where when a home comes on market, I call that agent and say, hey, if we bring a buyer and an acceptable offer, is cooperating compensation being offered, and if so, how much? So it used to be pretty standard that like about 90% of sellers were going to offer 3% to a buyer's agent that came along and helped sell the home. That dropped a little bit when this commission lawsuit came through, and then we saw it kind of rise back up. So the most recent data, and I actually went through my spreadsheet yesterday, so this is pretty updated. So in Fairview Lucas right now, there are 55 properties on the market, and 40 of them are offering 3% to a buyer's agent commission. So that's 73%. And there's another 10% or so that say that it's negotiable, where they haven't really put a number on it. But in the end, that's probably going to be 3%, 2.5%, something like that. But what's really interesting to me is not just what people are offering, But when you look at the homes that are actually under contract, the ones that buyers have gone ahead and submitted an offer and it's been accepted, there are 12 under contract right now in Fairview Lucas, and 11 of those offer 3% buyer's agent commission. So that's 92%. Mm-hmm. So even though 73% of the market out there is offering 3%, the ones that are actually getting under contract, almost all of them have offered 3% to a buyer's agent.
Mm-hmm. And we're finding out too, in a way, no matter what the listing agent puts out there as far as what the seller is going to be paying as far as buyer agent commissions, these offers are being submitted with a 3% anyway.
In general, yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
So again, it's your call as a seller how much you want to pay the buyer agent in commissions. It's all negotiable. You can say, I don't want to pay the buyer agent anything. And obviously, good luck with that. That's not going to work. Buyer agents, they don't work for free. So you have to make a determination in your own mind what works for you, and we're your eyes and ears, and we'll tell you what the market's doing, and then you make the decision from there on how you want to handle it. So I thought you'd be interested in hearing that, because that's just been such a huge buzz-eye, and we hear it all the time. And in fact, we talk about it in our meetings all the times too. So let's get into the fourth quarter info. Sean, why don't you explain where information comes first? It's the proprietary.
Yeah, this is our second one to do this. We've had access to this information for 6 months now, maybe. This is specific to Keller Williams, and it's not even every Keller Williams office. Basically, this is a program that was created by an IBM programmer many, many years ago, like 40 years ago. And his wife was in real estate, and he noticed that the information in MLS had a lot of flaws. That, somebody would list a home for $3 million and just put an extra zero by mistake. It was actually a $300,000 listing. And then when they went to change it, it would look in MLS like a $2.7 million reduction, and that would throw off the numbers. And there's a lot of little things like that are in there that just the MLS doesn't account for. So this information actually goes through and scrubs all of those human errors. So it's much better data. And so when this program was purchased by a Keller Williams agent a couple of years ago, I forget exactly how long, he started, putting this out to different offices around the country, and we, saw great value in having this information. And so we've had it now for about 6 months. And so what we're about to look at just goes through basically all of DFW, and then we narrow it down to Collin County a little bit more. But this is just looking at the last quarter of last year. Mm-hmm. So October, November, December of 2024, what was happening in the housing market.
All price points?
So it stops at $1 million plus. So you'll have 250 to 300, 300 to 500, et cetera. And then we'll have the $1 million plus range.
Okay.
Yep. So we got to read behind the numbers a little bit. But the first slide, Jason, is that one up?
Yep.
So the first one just shows every property in MLS that closed during the last quarter of last year, what broker was helping with that. And I'm very happy to see that, and proud to say that Keller Williams was the number one broker throughout DFW over the final quarter of last year. We had about 10% of the market, and then Coldwell Banker, EXP, Compass, so on down the line. So this is why we're here, right? Keller Williams is an amazing company. They train everybody really well. The agents actually know what they're doing. We have resources like this that give us better information than other brokers, and it shows in the numbers. So we sold about 10% of the total homes over the last quarter of last year. Next one is there's so much to this chart, so I like looking at two things. One is the blue line, which shows interest rates, which are obviously still high. I mean, that's just been the main factor in what's happened in the market over the past couple of years. So we're still up above 6%. As you can see at the very end, it did drop a little bit. So, rates are starting to make their way back down a little bit, but they're still pretty high. So that's affecting a buyer's purchase power. The other thing on this slide that's just interesting to me is the difference between the red bars and the gray bars. The red bars show what is sold, and the gray bar shows what is active, the active inventory. And if you look at those gray bars, it's way up to the top, higher than it's been. This chart goes back to 2010 essentially, and there's just tons of homes on the market. So even though we're selling a lot of homes still, there's still a lot of homes closing, it feels much slower and more sluggish because there's just so many more options out there. And this is reflected right here. Just the number of active listings during the last quarter of last year was about 40%. And if you look at every price point on that slide, every single price point is up. There's just more homes available. But this shows that homes are still selling. So these are the pending listings during the last quarter. And as you can see on that very right-hand side, it's almost identical to the last quarter of 2023. So the same number of homes essentially are getting under contract. And the million plus, which we really focus on, the same thing. It's pretty much balanced from last year. So homes are still selling. The number sold, same thing. So we sold more homes in the last quarter of 2024 than we did in 2023. And that was the case across all price points. This one to me is big. And Tom, I don't know if you can see this one, or you may need to turn around to see it, but this shows the median sales price over the last couple of years by quarter. And that's another reason why it's sluggish, right? I mean, in 2020, 2021, and 2022, prices just exploded, like absolutely exploded. And now it's leveled off. So even though we're still getting homes under contract, they're still selling, they're really pretty level to the prices from last year and even the year before. So it's not like prices have fallen necessarily. They've just kind of leveled out, which is what the market needed to do, right? I mean, there's no way that was sustainable to get 20% growth every single year. It had to reach a point where it kind of leveled out, and the data there shows it. So, and I think if you look at quarter four of last year, that bump up of 1.2%, to me, that shows me a little bit of optimism. Right. I mean, a lot of people were worried about the election last year, and now that's behind us. And we've talked about this for a while, that we can just feel this demand, like buyers want to get out. They want to shop. They want to do it. And so that makes me a little bit optimistic about the spring season ahead. So that's a good sign.
Let me say something here too.
Absolutely. I actually dive in whenever you want.
I did a newsletter a while back, a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things I pointed out is a lot of people think that, well, the selling season really starts about June, June, July, and August. And one of the things I mentioned is every June and July, we are having to keep our sellers calm when they put their homes on the market that late. And they're saying, well, where are all the buyers? Well, all the buyers have made their decisions. We don't have these bitter cold winters any longer. The selling season has already started. So if you're thinking about selling your home, don't delay in getting it out there. It doesn't have to look perfect. Now, we reshoot all the outside images in about mid-May. But this is a small market that we specialize in. I call it FLP, Fairview, Lucas, and Parker. Every time a buyer makes a decision to purchase a home, that's one less buyer out there. And that really starts impacting the sellers that start late, thinking, well, I'll just wait till everything's perfect in June and July. By then, the market really has, for us, for several years now, has slowed down. So don't delay if you're thinking about selling your home. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. No, excellent point. We hear that every year where people think, let me get my home on the market in May. And that's usually kind of the last breath of the selling season. So yeah, we're telling our sellers right now, let's get it out there in the next couple of weeks. Let's get it going. Okay, so this next one compares Q4 of 2024 to 2023, and this one also I think speaks to just kind of the sluggish feel. This is showing the final sales price that our sellers are getting compared to what they were asking in the very beginning, their original list price. And so a lot of our sellers are still thinking, a lot of the sellers, not just ours, but across DFW, are thinking, okay, market's back. I can ask whatever I want. They still have 2021 in their memory. And it's not the case. Buyers are needing to get a compromise from the sellers right now. So the average during the last quarter of 2024, 95% essentially of what you were asking when you started. Mm-hmm. So if you put the price out there at $1 million, you were probably ending around 950 is where it was. And that's across all price points. I mean, it dropped a little bit this year compared to last year. So just the point of this is when a seller puts their home on the market, pick a number that we think is market. It's a fair assessment given the condition, location, everything about your home, and just be aware that chances are you're not getting 100% of that asking price. That's just what the market is dictating right now. It's not a bad thing necessarily. It's just the market that we're living in. So I always like showing this to sellers so they're prepared. Hey, let's ask this price. If we hit it, that's a home run. Fantastic. But most sellers are having to settle a little bit.
Talk about this too. This is accurate information too. The MLS is a massive database, and it can be manipulated by the agents. What this information does for us, it weeds out all of the original listing price of a home. It filters out all of the bogus, what really was the original listing price and what did it really sell for. So this is accurate information. This is not something you'd pull up on the MLS, which, you know, it's bogus. If you really peel back the layers, this is good info right here.
Well,
The example there is that if a lot of the time somebody will they'll be trying to put in a home at 1.2 million and they'll accidentally type in 120,000.
Yeah.
And so you can't weed out that data if you're just pulling raw data from the MLS. And honestly, it's not easy to pull good raw data from the MLS.
Right.
But even if you do, there's always these weird outliers that need to be taken into account.
This one in particular, though, I think is so important because what MLS will show, like if a property starts at 2 million, right? And let's say it's grossly overpriced and they're on the market for 9 months and they drop, and they get down to 1.5 and then they sell for 1.5. In the MLS, that's going to show as 100% of their sales price.
Right.
But that's not true.
Right.
They started at 2 million and they're actually getting 75% of what they originally asked.
Right.
So MLS doesn't show that. This data does.
Yeah. So pay attention to this type of information because it really tells the true story.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Days on market. I mean, this, I think everybody knows right now that it's up across every single price point. So, again, people have a short memory. In 2021, your home was on the market for what? A day? 12 hours?
Yeah, we might have, I'm not exaggerating, we might have 10 offers on a property within 2 days.
It was wild.
Yeah.
It was absolutely wild. And I think people still, again, have that in the back of their mind a little bit. That's not normal. What we're seeing now is a return to normalcy. So on average, homes that sold during the last quarter last year were on market for about 53 days, which was up from the year prior. Again, not a bad thing. Just got to know going in what you're up against. Price reductions. So that, again, up across the board. People kind of started too high, let it linger for too long, and then they slowly had to drop price. So all the homes across DFW that sold in the last quarter last year, it was 55% of them that had to have a price drop at some point before they actually got under contract. So that's over half the homes. It's quite a bit. This one might be important for the anybody watching that is kind of in our general price point, which is $1 million plus. This is just showing how much of a price reduction actually had to be taken to actually get the job done. And for the $1 million plus market, that was about 7.5% when it was all done from their original price. This one I think is really important. It just shows and this is really more specific to people's needs. If you are selling your home and you have to be in Ohio in 45 days, right? You got to get under contract quickly. This shows me that pricing is so incredibly important. You cannot, try and test the ceiling and see what happens, because what this shows is homes that didn't have a price reduction, meaning that they were priced aggressively up front, they were in great condition, and they went quickly, that median days on market was like 2 weeks. So homes can still move very quickly if they're priced correctly, marketed beautifully, and they've got, the right condition, location, all those things. If you miss that initial 2 weeks, if you're overpriced, the home isn't ready, it's not staged, whatever, the number of days on market on average goes up dramatically. It goes up to 93 days. So instead of taking 2 weeks, it's going to take 3 months. So if you are selling your house and you got to be somewhere at a certain time, you have to pay attention to that initial pricing. It's extremely important. That's again kind of shown here. This one is pretty shocking. Like we just talked about a couple years ago, you wouldn't even think that a home would be on market and not sell. I mean, it was like 100% of the homes out there sold. This is showing that is no longer the case. So during the last quarter of 2024, almost 40% of the homes that were on the market actually fell off without a sale.
That's amazing.
That's a big number.
We're seeing
And
so many expireds come through. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we track it, and you're seeing them every single day. You're seeing an expired listing and nice homes
Yeah.
that you would expect to sell. But its pricing is so important right now, and marketing is so important. And not everyone is hitting on those points.
agreed completely. And even some that we get a call on, after they've fallen off market with somebody else, when we go in and we look at it, I mean, sometimes the price is fine.
Yeah,
It's where it should be, but the home isn't staged. The online pictures don't look very good. And there's so many things that go into this that, yeah, pricing is number one most important, but there's a lot of stuff beyond that if you don't have an agent that has experience in the area, knows what they're doing, knows how to prospect for buyers, a lot of those are falling off. So the million plus, I mean, it's over half the homes.
I had
half the homes listed for over $1 million in DFW just didn't sell.
I had two near the end of last year that I got that were expired. They were with an agent previously,
Yeah.
and one of them we didn't have a price reduction on. The other one, it was a $20,000 price reduction on a home that was over $1.5 million.
Yep.
Both of those sold in a month. Once we got them, and that just goes to the marketing side of things. Sometimes
Absolutely.
it isn't price. A lot of time it is price.
Yeah.
Sometimes it isn't.
Yeah.
So, I've always been big on pictures. Everything starts with pictures. Even though it used to be the only way you could see a home was you actually go through an open house, but now everybody does their shopping online. And it makes a tremendous difference on the quality of the photography. We spend a lot of money. In fact, that's probably our number one expense is photography. The way it's done, it's a process. It goes through several filters to make sure the outside pictures look just as sharp as the inside pictures when you're viewing from inside to outside. Those make a huge difference because literally one picture can sell a home. So you can't just go out there and snap pictures and put it on. You have to give each picture individually. It has to be edited and professionally. And I think that is one of the biggest differences between our competitors. And we have seen other good pictures out there, but for every great job I think someone's doing with images, I'll see 10 that think, why did the seller, can they not see that that's not representative of their home? So the staging that we do, everything we do is so professional. The material we put out, the brochures, if it comes out of our office, it's first class. And then, of course, I'm not going to go into the spiel, but marketing is such a huge part of our business, and that's why we've been so successful over all these years.
Yeah. And I think most sellers, have a pretty good understanding that the photography has got to be perfect. I mean, that's the first showing, right? Everybody's going to look online. But what I don't think enough sellers really pay attention to is the staging part. Is when people actually get in the car, they come to the house, they walk through the door, it has to have an emotional connection. And we had one recently, a very odd property where, the house needed a lot of work, but I knew that the view out the windows, the backyard, the trees, I was going to sell it. And so every room that we staged, your eyes were drawn to the windows. There were seats in certain areas where you had to sit down and you're just looking out the windows, seeing the trees. And so that property ended up selling pretty quickly. And I think a lot of it had to do with staging, to be honest.
I agree.
Okay, this one is showing how many homes actually got 100% of their asking price or better, and it wasn't many. So during the last quarter last year, 20% of the homes on the market got full asking price, and that's down across the board from the year previous. Sellers are having to compromise not only on their asking price right now, but they're also, in general, contributing some money towards closing costs. So if a buyer needs, they want to make some repairs on their own, or they want a little bit of cash to cover some of their closing costs because they don't have the money to do that. That's always been, kind of negotiated in contracts to a certain extent, but it keeps going up. So the homes that sold during the last quarter of last year, over 50% of the sellers ended up giving some contribution to the buyer's closing costs. And that dollar amount on the median was $8,000. And this is kind of weird to me that it's so much higher in the lower price points. Is that weird to you?
I think some of that could be new builds.
I guess that's
Potentially,
true. Yeah, that could be builders
certain
giving
builder.
discounts. Yeah.
There's a lot of builder incentives, so it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense for the 450 to 550 because you're seeing a lot of those being built Princeton, Melissa, and everywhere. So it's probably those. That
And a lot of those builders are offering that incentive
they are
right
offering
off the bat. Yeah.
pretty crazy incentives
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Okay.
How much more do we have? How much more information do you want to go through? We could give these.
I think
We could spend an hour on
We
this.
have maybe 10 more slides.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're at about
All right.
10 slides left.
Okay,
I'll try
good.
and pop through it. But this one is specific to million plus in Collin County, which is kind of, more where we work. So, and this is just showing that if you priced correctly up front, the marketing was beautiful, the home was staged beautifully, those homes in general sold in 16 days and for 98.3% of their asking price. And if you didn't do that, if you weren't priced correctly, the home sat and sat, you were lucky to get 90% of your asking price, and it took at least 2 months. This one, this I think people just need to reach out to us. There's too much here. The point is this system that we use, this program, it's not just going to tell us DFW and Collin County. We can go by city, we can go by school district. So I mean, if you're in Plano and you feed into Plano West or whatever, and you want some information about what's happening in your exact market, we have that. New home sales are starting to increase a little bit again. They were down right after COVID. Obviously, when COVID hit, builders had to hit the brakes on building homes, but that's starting to pick up a little bit. The sales prices, as you can see, it's still a pretty steady rise, both between resale and new construction. It's certainly not, bouncing up to the percent of 20% growth year to year, but it's getting back to a more stable 3 to 5% growth every single year. This still covers some of what we've already talked about. This one just shows, like we talked about, those failed listings, just a lot of homes that are out there that are not finding a buyer. Numbers sold are still strong. So, I mean, it really, if you look at the fourth quarter of 2024, we sold more homes during that quarter than in 2023 and 2022. Mm-hmm. So, and if you look at the third quarter, that was kind of level or fell off from the years previous. So again, this to me kind of shows the optimism in the market right now, right? I mean, like rates started to settle a little bit, the election's over, people are out there, they're wanting to buy. So that gives me some optimism for this year. And that one shows it too. Look at that. Tom, you need to see that one.
Oh, wow.
The number sold compared year to year. Look at the fourth quarter of 2024.
Wow.
It's a big jump in sales. And we had a strong, what was our fourth quarter? I mean, we had a big fourth quarter,
did.
Our
didn't we?
fourth quarter was surprisingly strong.
Yeah.
Even December was very strong for us.
Q1 stunk.
Yeah.
Q2 was pretty good. Q3 was pretty level, but Q4 just, we had a
it
lot.
blew up. Yeah, in January it was big for us too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of, I think things are starting to shift.
Yep. Feels it. We already kind of spoke to that one. This, it is, but it's just kind of interesting, just showing how people are buying now. It's still mainly cash and conventional. That hasn't changed a whole lot. The cash buyers are down a little bit, but most people are still using a conventional loan. And cash purchases are still really high for homes under 250. That's probably more investment stuff, but the million is always amazing to me. Look at that million plus. 30%.
Yeah.
Of the people buying million plus homes are paying cash.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just there's a lot of people out there with a lot of cash just sitting
Many
around.
more will be coming from California too. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of when it starts to hit.
And for the cash under 250, a lot of the builders on the lower end, under 250, are starting to allow investors to actually buy in the neighborhoods they're building. They were kind of restricting that for a while.
Yeah.
Now they have inventory. They're allowing that in a lot of instances, and so it makes sense. You're seeing that number be very high right now. There's a lot of investors buying those lower end new builds out in places like Princeton.
Yeah. Well, there's always the West Coast people moving here, but I feel like this year specifically, we've run into more people from Chicago and more people from New York. And you got to keep in mind, when those people are selling their homes, there and moving here, they're probably selling them for a pretty big price. Those are, expensive areas. And then they're coming here and they're coming to Texas prices. And although our prices are rising, they're still very affordable by comparison. So, if you sell a $1.5 million home in Chicago and you come here and buy something that's 1.1, you got cash in hand. So you don't have to worry with interest rates. a lot. This last one, I just could find kind of interesting. You know, a lot of people you hear everything from the public, right? You know, they hear a headline and they start freaking out, and a lot of people thought, oh, you know, the housing market's another bubble. There's another bubble coming. It's a totally different deal. I mean, in 2007, 8, there were predatory lending things going on. There was a lot. And so the number of foreclosures and short sales and everything were huge back in 07, 08. We're not seeing that at all right now. So it's not like it's a predatory lending problem. It's just, you know, it's an interest rate problem and an inventory problem. And so I like seeing that. If we start seeing foreclosures and short sales go up, that's a different story completely. But right now, we're really not seeing it.
Yeah.
So in general, it just shows me, you know, the housing market is pretty healthy here in North Texas. Is it 2021 anymore? No, but that was never going to, you know, continue forever. And so we've just kind of returned to a more normal, balanced market. And so the things that we've talked about this whole time, you know, pricing, condition, marketing, staging, they're just more important than they have been.
So we are very bullish about 2025. We've been waiting. We've been positioning ourselves for the last 2 or 3 months. You're getting the listings we want to have when the market starts to move, which it already, like I said, the fourth quarter was great. So don't think that we're being pessimistic. We're not. This is fantastic. I can't find another area I'd rather be than Collin County, and especially Fairview, Lucas, and Parker, which is where we specialize. And it's going to be a great year for us. It's going to be a great year for our sellers, and we're going to have a lot of happy buyers who end up moving into this area. So please don't interpret anything of this of being pessimistic. It's just realism, and we've got to be realistic with our sellers, which we always are, and with the buyers. So we're going to have a great 2025.
Yeah.
Sean, anything to add?
No, that's it. I echo that completely. I think this is realistic information that is promising, and so we'll keep tracking this stuff and make sure the people that need our help know all this so they can make the best decisions possible for their family.
Okay, Jace, anything to add?
That's about it.
Okay. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We'll have another one of these at the end of this current quarter, or I guess when will the next one be?
So we'll get it in mid-April. So we'll shoot another one late April.
And if you want to be on our newsletter, we've always got some interesting information on that too. Just let us know, send us an email, and we'll get you on. So thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you.